MIAA Monday back again this week. MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy joining me. Sir, thanks as always for coming on.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, Chris.
Good to see you. Week 3 of college football in the books now. Just a lot of excitement this past week. And with the MIAA, I guess it's at the point where you don't ever know what's going to happen. Top to bottom, it's a pretty tough conference. Just overall thoughts from you so far through 3 weeks. I mean, we've had one postponement due to COVID, but outside of that, things have been running pretty smoothly this year.
Yeah, I think the play's been good. The crowds are back. I think our officiating has done a good job. They've made some tough calls, and after looking at film, and looks like a lot of big calls and big moments. They've, for the most part, been right, and so we're off to a good season. But yeah, I think it just highlights, Chris, how tough it is in the MIAA week in, week out. You've got to be ready every week. We saw this weekend Missouri Southern surprising UCO in Edmond. That was a big shock. We saw some games come down to the finish with Emporia State and Missouri Western. We saw a great battle in Kearney with couple of teams that were undefeated, 2-0 going into that game. Northwest had to find a new quarterback, and they didn't look like they missed a beat. So it's an exciting weekend, and I think it just underscores how tough this conference is to get a win, especially on the road, and every week's a battle.
I know in talking to Coach Matt Williamson at Missouri Western and Coach Rich Wright at Northwest that they're not going to use it as an excuse that we don't know what we're expecting to have in 2021 because it's been 2 years. But as you look at it, how do you evaluate this year as a whole, even though we're early into it, because there has been such a long time since we've had football in the MIAA. It's been 2 years, which doesn't seem like a while, but that's quite a while for teams that have to sit on the sidelines. How does that evaluation go in with saying, okay, yeah, but this happened because of, we haven't played in 2 years, it was a slow start, or maybe this didn't happen. Do you have to look at this differently, or is it just the same way that coaches do, we just got to fight forward?
Well, I think we're all looking at intercollegiate athletics differently in, the fact that we had to go through, first a spring season in the spring of 20, and then a fall season in the fall of 2020 without playing those sports. And sometimes you don't appreciate something until it's gone or it's been taken away. And I think it really, helps magnify how important intercollegiate athletics is for our universities and for our communities. For the spirit in the community, for the environment on campus, and most of all, for our student athletes. They had every one of our student athletes in the MIAA and across the country had something very special taken away from them. When they were told that they couldn't play and that seasons would be canceled, championships would be canceled. For a lot of these young people, this is their identity. This is what motivates them. This is what has provided them an opportunity to get an education, is the ability to be part of a team and to play sports. And so I think certainly when I evaluate what's going on right now, I can think back on, some of the thoughts I had in 2017, 2018, 2019 season, and checking scores around the country, and even this early, how are we looking in regional, how the teams are stacking up regionally and playoffs. And this year's a little different for me. I'm really just thankful that I'm seeing football happen at all levels. And especially at the MIAA, and it's a treat to be able to go to these games and to stand on the sideline and just watch these young people play. So it's a little different this year, Chris, for sure. And I'm hopeful, and that at the end of the year we'll have one or two, maybe three MIAA teams that make a deep run in the playoffs, and it'd be great to have another MIAA school putting a national championship banner in the stadium. But right now, this early in the season, and already having one game canceled, I'm just thankful every game that gets played, and seeing football back the way it is.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy with me here on MIAA Monday, and I want to go back to something you said a little bit ago about officiating so far this season. And one of the biggest plays of the weekend, Emporia State Missouri Western Hornets went for two late in the game. Down one, they just scored a touchdown. Huge call. Coach Higgins and that staff did credit them for going for it. That was as close to a bang play at the pylon. The knee was down at the replay showed it. The officials ruled it no good. Without review at this level, that's an incredibly hard call to see in real time. Because across the field, I thought it was close enough where the pylon was kicked. I assumed he was in, but of course I'm across the field. How do you evaluate the officials there when in real time he made the right call looking back on it, but what goes into that?
Yeah, and he did get the call right, and it's hard when you see it from the stands and you see a runner stretching the ball out, you see a pylon that gets knocked over, and our brain is taught to think that, okay, that's a score, that's good. When the pylon goes over and it's because of a body part or the ball, then that signals that it's good. But no, the knee was down before the ball got there, and it was a good call. And when I look at that, I my 5 years as commissioner and working closely with our officiating and in all sports, whether I'm watching a basketball game or a baseball game or a softball game, a football game, I'm looking where our officials are and how they're how they're working their mechanics to be in the right position, to see a play, to have the right view, to have the right angle, to be able to make that call. And on that play, that official was exactly where he needed to be to see that play, to see what in real time, to make that split-second judgment, and to see the play exactly as it is, and to make that call, be confident in that decision. And it was, it's the way it was supposed to happen. And there's a lot that goes into this, Chris. The MIAA, we're fortunate to have, I think, the best supervisor of officials at any level in NCAA football, Phil Laurie, a decorated Division I official that officiated in both the Big 8 and the Big 12, worked a number of bowl games, national championship games, conference championship games. He's been on the biggest stages for college football. And he's been with the MIAA for over a decade. And one thing that he has done is brought a close working relationship between the Big 12 and the MIAA, both in personnel and in tools and equipment and services and things that we're able to use and do as a conference that a lot of Division II conferences aren't able to have access to those same type of resources. Phil does an excellent job every off season in recruiting new officials. We have turnover. A little bit of turnover is performance based. If at the end of a year an official in their evaluation, if they're not cutting it, we're gonna let him or her go. But most of our turnover is a result of our officials being called to work in the Big 12 or work in the Conference USA or work in the Southland Conference. We've had former MIAA officials that end up working in the NFL and working in Super Bowls and And so we're a great place for officials to learn and grow and develop. And then we have a lot of officials that end up staying with us for a long time. Dwight Niebling has been with the conference for 30 years. He's officiated a couple of Division II national championship games, but there's a lot that goes into it. And, there's one thing that I'm proud of as commissioner. Our officials spend a lot of time in the off-season conditioning, and they're in shape. They look a lot better than I do. I wouldn't pass our supervisor's test for the type of condition that you need to be in to be an MIAA official. And we have those standards in every one of our sports, and football's a great example. These are individuals. A lot of them play college football. A lot of them are doing what they do because they want to give back to the game. They're in great shape. They spend all off season going to clinics and camps, and during the season, during the week, they're watching film. They're being graded by other officials. They're prepping for the upcoming week. Every Thursday night, the referees, the head of the officiating crew for each game, they get on a teleconference with Phil, and they go through a pretty intense evaluation of the previous week. Phil watches every game, and he'll give me a report on how well the crew did. And as an example, Chris, 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, week 2, just last week, we had 5 MIAA football games. We had between 175 to 200 snaps in every one of those games. So in the neighborhood of about 900 total plays, and grading out our officiating crew on every single one of those plays, we missed 10.
Wow.
We had 4 penalties that were called that on review should not have been penalties. So 4 of 900 plays that got called were wrong. And then there were 6 plays where a penalty was not called, but it should have been called. And so that, we try to be perfect, and officials aren't. And we don't have a replay system to fix some of those things. The four penalties that were called that shouldn't, maybe those get fixed in Division I, but on replay, but we try to be right every play. But I thought those numbers from last week are pretty good. We can live with that. 10 plays that our football officials got wrong out of 900, approximately 900 total snaps. Now, our coaches don't want any play that impacts their team to be wrong, and I agree with that. We don't want to be wrong, but I would stack up that performance by MIAA officials in week 2 of the football season against any other conference, any level, Division I, II, or III. We saw some of the issues that took place this past weekend at the Division I level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think there was a game where they got the down wrong. They missed a 3rd down versus a 4th down. So officials are human. Officials are going to make mistakes, but we certainly spend a lot of time in the MIAA recruiting good officials, training them, and then evaluating how well they do from week to week. And a lot of this evaluation, Chris, is not, it's performance based. We keep records, and we want to retain the officials that are the best and doing the best job. But, these mistakes are shared with other crews, so we can learn from that. Mm-hmm. So, that flag that wasn't thrown in week 2, hopefully we learn from that and that flag gets thrown in week 3 and then the rest of the season. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of film work, a lot of prep and group work that goes into a football Saturday for our officials, and I think we have some of the best officials in the country.
I want to go to something you mentioned there about review and everything too. The Emporia Missouri Western 2-point conversion, that would in Division I be reviewed. I mean, that one's pretty much a bang play anyway. What makes it to where Division II doesn't have the review capabilities? A lot of it just logistics, money. Because if you look at some MIAA schools, I think there's enough camera angles at least maybe to pull off review. But is a lot of it just logistics and money-wise, maybe, if anything else?
Yeah, it is, and I think we're maybe 2 or 3 years away from the MIAA having some sort of a review system. Division II, the only time that I'm aware that review is used is in the NCAA playoffs at the semifinal level and then the championship game. Those 3 games usually have review, and part of the reason that happens is because those games are televised. Mm-hmm. The semifinal games on CBS Sports Network, and then the Division II football championship on ESPN, and having a television broadcast makes it a lot easier to set up a review system. You do need to have at least a couple of people that are in a booth that, that's their job, is reviewing every play. And we don't really, in Division II football, when it's used, we don't really use challenges. It's, a stop of play by a couple of officials that are in a booth that are watching every game or every play and then making the decision if play should be stopped for further review, and then it could be overturned. So, but I think, some of the things that we've started to talk with our technology partner, Blue Frame Technologies out of Lexington, Kentucky, and they help manage our platform for the MIAA network. And there are some advances in technology that we may be able to actually have those decisions on replay being done by the officials on the field, where they would be able to access an iPad and be able to make a call on a close play, to be able to take a minute or two, go over, like in a basketball game when they go to the monitor there at the scorer's table. We would have something set up on the field where our officials could come over and look and then make a decision on whether or not the call should stand or should be overturned. So we're a couple of years away from that, but I think we're moving in that direction, and certainly that that's an important part of really all sports now. Baseball, basketball, the expectation by fans that if there is technology that can help correct an error, we should be using that, and to some extent I agree with that. If we can use technology to improve upon the human eye, the judgment calls that get made, we should do that, because at the end of the day, the goal, the objective is to get every call right.
With that too, I think, and you've probably seen it too, where sometimes replay or sometimes will just extend the game, an extra 15, 20, 30 minutes, and really just slow down pace of everything. Because, like you said, there's human element to officiating. They're going to get things, or they're going to miss a few things here and there. But like you said, only 4 missed penalties over 900 snaps. I'd probably miss about 100 things in 900 snaps. But you look at all these things put together, is that where there's how much is too much technology to where, okay, we have to review this play. He was down at the 33 instead of the 32, and so it'd be 2nd and 4. They don't do this at NFL or Division I level, but is there always that kind of discussion of how far do we take review, in Division II's case, how far, if and when we get there, do we take this too? Yeah,
I think that's the balance that we have to find, is how do we how do we use technology in a way that's helping us, improve the accuracy of a call and the officiating of a game, but do it in a way where it's not taking away the momentum of a game. And if you have a 5-minute review of something, it's just to me at that point it's ineffective, because if you can't see approaching an iPad or looking at something from a booth and watching a couple of replays, and if it doesn't show you right away that there's an error, well, then we need to go with what was called on the field, because probably that official, that he or she was in the right position, had the right view, the right angle, and may even be seeing some things that we're not seeing from that camera angle or whatever. So I think to me, replay should be used, and it's something that we're moving towards in more than just basketball at the Division II level, but it needs to be used in an efficient way, a way that doesn't significantly impact momentum, and can be done quickly. That if you don't see an error, then it's time to move on. The play on the field would stand, and you get ready for the next play.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy with me here on MIAA Monday. I want to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about facilities. I know it's a question that everybody talks about. As we've seen in the last 10 years, I'd argue, just an explosion of MIAA facilities, not just in football, but across the board. How does the conference look at how it's just expanding? I don't know if there's any way, or just a boom of facilities like Missouri Western, Northwest, Washburn. I'm going to leave a team out here somewhere, but I mean, there's so much, facility expansion and so much growth. That's got to look pretty good for the conference from the office level, but also from the individual schools, doesn't it?
Chris, it's a great question, and I love talking about our facilities. Starting with our conference office, I think we have one of the best conference office layouts in the country, where we have about 2,200 square feet inside Hy-Vee Arena. What used to be Kemper Arena in the West Bottoms near downtown Kansas City, a historic building that has had NCAA championships played here, and it's a great place to come to work every day. It's we have a great office setup, and we have great visibility and marketing and branding that we can do in front of thousands of kids that are here every week to play sports. And so I'll start with our conference, but I think as far as our schools, the facilities that we have, Chris, are game changers. And we have a lot of schools that have facilities that are better than a lot of Division I programs. Yeah. Some of the nicest indoor facilities in the country. It's no secret that the track community views Pittsburgh State's indoor facility as one of the best places to stage indoor national championships. The NAIA uses it. The National Junior College Association goes there for their national championships. And now, recently the addition of Northwest indoor track, and now Washburn with an indoor track that has bank tracks. And there's a reason that every indoor or outdoor track season, the MIAA is placing 3 or 4 schools in the top 10 and in the hunt for national titles. And our football stadiums, you've been to many of them, are rival a lot of programs in FCS and what they get to play in every Saturday. Some of the nicest stadiums that we have now in baseball, Missouri Southern, what they have at UCM, Pittsburgh State's baseball facility with their new indoor lockers and hitting space and the upstairs suites. But it just, for our student athletes, it's a demonstration, I think, by our institutions of their commitment to excellence. That they've made decisions to build facilities that provide our student athletes the best possible Division II experience that they can have, and it's a big part of recruiting. I know Northwest just opened up their new football locker rooms, and that's that's a huge deal for recruits when they come to visit. They obviously see the national championship banners at the stadium, but they want to see the locker room. They spend a lot of time there, and that's important to students on the type of facilities and amenities that they get to play in. I know with Missouri Western and the investment that the Kansas City Chiefs have made in helping to upgrade and provide first class training facilities and the stadium upgrades and that's a big thing for coaches to be able to go out and to show highlights not just of a Missouri Western game, but Chiefs training and the things that go into that. So facilities is a big thing. It's always been a big thing, but I think it's getting to be a bigger thing. And I'm really proud of the facilities that we have access to in the MIAA. And I'd stack up some of the places that we get to play our championships, Chris, with anyone in the country. Playing the division or the MIAA basketball championship at historic Municipal Auditorium, playing our softball championship at ASA Softball Complex in Oklahoma City, where they have the College World Series. I already mentioned the type of indoor facilities we get to choose from for staging our men's and women's indoor track championships. So, you go down the list of postseason experience, and doesn't get a lot better than where our student athletes in the MIAA get to play here in our 4-state region. And it's a good place for coaches to recruit, and a lot of it has to do with the facilities on their campuses that they get to show off to student athletes.
Well, I want to ask you, because I think it's interesting, from your seat, you see that Missouri Western builds this indoor, and they're one of the first ones to do it in the conference. And then you see Northwest get theirs done, and they have the track around it. Washburn gets, the little bit bigger track, kind of a little bit more amenities around it. As you watch every school kind of say, okay, they have this, we're going to add this to this too, and kind of make it next level. The competition of facilities, is that always kind of maybe from your perspective interesting to watch these schools in the conference go, okay, well, they got this, we're going to add this and this to it. But that's also part of the game is if you have it first, someone's going to come along and do something a little bit bigger, a little bit better, but it's all about that competition part of it too.
Yeah, I think so. The keeping up with the Joneses, a lot of people like to call it an arms race, but I think it really is, it's competition among the schools in our conference of seeing what others are doing and understanding that that you can quickly get left behind if you're not investing and doing things that show to your current students and then also the recruits that as part of the MIAA, your goal is to be competitive and to try and win championships. And so I think it is, something that we've seen going on here the last, 15 years or so with some of the things that Missouri Western, I think, did help start and showcasing, a beautiful indoor complex. Just recently, Washburn took it to a different level, having an indoor complex that provides kind of a separate area for a bank track and then a practice competition field for other sports, including football, to use. It's it's one of a kind. It's state of the art, and And I'm sure someone in the MIAA right now is trying to figure out how to outdo that. What is that design that takes it even to the next level?
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, I'll get you out here on this question. Heading into Week 4 college football, but also the rest of all sports too, getting deeper and deeper. Just overall thoughts on the entire landscape as we're getting further into the fall sports season.
Well, even though we've been off a while, and it's still hard to believe that in our fall sports, some 600 plus days from meaningful regular season competition, that we had in the fall of 2019 to again this year in 2021. My takeaway is that we've kind of picked up right where we left off, and probably no better symbol for that, Chris, than the volleyball matchup that we saw on Saturday between number 1 ranked in the country, Nebraska Kearney, and number 3 ranked in the country, the Washburn Ichabods, and both programs undefeated. Washburn making an Elite 8 run in 2018, Kearney finishing runner-up in the country in 2019, and here we are, both programs in the top 5, and they'll play twice in the regular season. And on Saturday night, Washburn got the first one at Kearney's place in an exciting, great MIAA match. So, whether we're talking about top-ranked teams in women's soccer or the number of MIAA teams we have in the top 10 in volleyball to another very competitive race that we have in football, our student athletes and our coaches, they've picked up right where they left off pre-pandemic, and it's just great to watch. Not only the talent that we have, but just the competitiveness in our programs in every single sport.
MIAA Commissioner Mike Racy, thank you as always for coming on.
You bet. Good to see you, Chris.
Good to see you.